Good morning and welcome to Whitney in the Wild. If you're in Atlanta, it might be rainy this morning, but we're still going to have some fun. I've got Jeff Lovejoy. He is an action coach, and Jeff and I know each other through ABGT, which is our networking group.
Yep.
So
I'm excited about being a member of that.
Yeah, it's great. So good morning, Jeff. Thanks for being with me.
Good morning, Whitney. Thank you.
Good morning.
Glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad that we know each other through ABGT. I'm not the new kid on the block anymore in the group.
Yes, I have that honor. Were you there before I was? Meaning you were the new kid, but
I think because I think I joined maybe in August of 2019? You know, with all this, the past year,
right.
It just all runs together.
Right.
But
Right.
I want to say it was 2019 because it was before the world ended. So.
Well, I've noticed I've been dumped on by a lot of, anytime we have group discussions, I have to be the scribe and all those rookie things that get done.
They're unspoken rules, but it does happen. Yes. Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm often volunteered or voluntold in my group too. But, I feel like I take good notes. So I also like to take that upon myself. So at least when we come back to the group, we have a cohesive answer.
Yep.
So I'm excited to dive in this morning because even though you and I are the same group, this is like our first time actually sitting down and kind of really diving into what you do.
Right.
I know you come to Liger networking events, which is great. So you're a great networker. But tell us what it means to be an action coach.
So I joined Action Coach almost 14 years ago, and it was coming out of corporate banking, and I was ready for a change.
Okay.
And what drew me to Action Coach, which is a franchise, we're the world's largest coaching franchise, was the fact I love to help people. And so I was working with someone, and we talked about what are the things that I really am good at and I like to do, and what don't I like. And so I was, I wanted to be somewhere where I could build relationships with people. I wanted to be in the commercial space. I wanted it to be something where I added value. And those are all things that are bred into in Action Coach. I mean, we're all there to help people. I've never been in an organization, and I've been in corporate banking, where you had to kind of watch behind your back. You didn't know who was behind you, and if they were going to take your ideas and run it up the flagpole, take credit for it themselves.
Yeah.
Here, everybody is helping everybody else, and it's a because we're all coaches, right? I mean, we're all there to help people, and if it means I'm helping a coach, that's great. If it means I'm helping a client, that's great. If it's so, what it means to me is it's just that outreach to help people, in my case, mostly business owners who are good at what they do, but they've never had any training in how to run a business. And so they get on that hamster wheel because they don't know any better, and they think they have to work harder. And so they're on that wheel, and that wheel is going faster and faster and faster, and they start losing motivation. Family life starts being impacted. They miss the daughter's ballet, the son's baseball, whatever. No date nights, no. And so that's what draws, I think, all of us to Action Coach, is to try to help. In fact, our vision statement, though lofty, is to world abundance through business re-education. It's all about helping business owners see a different way of running their business. Yeah. And that's what I find exciting, because when I work with owners, and we've had dramatic impact on owners, it's fun to see the impact it has. It doesn't happen overnight, but over a course of a year and a half, 2 years, they're night and day different from where they were. And they're where they want to be. Instead of on that hamster wheel, we've slowed the hamster wheel down. It's now manageable, and they're able to take time and focus on growing the business, which is what they want in most cases, rather than getting caught up in counting inventory in the back, which is not very motivating.
Yeah. That's interesting because I see that too, where going from corporate to owning my own business, if you would have asked me fresh out of college for business advice, I wouldn't have been able to give it to you. But going through it and living that, there's so much more that I know now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how how did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Because I get the, wanting a change and wanting to do something different, but when you made that decision, what really led you to become an action coach? Like, was there a moment where you're like, I know this is what I want to do?
I was evaluating several other franchises, and what appealed to me about all of them was the concept, the helping. I mean, I'm into that. I love to help people. I've coached boys hockey teams. I was assistant coach at the Chambly softball team. Nice. I was helped with my daughter's softball, son's Boy Scouts. I just like to add value. And I think what's really driving that was when I was growing up, and even into my 40s, I wasted time, and I let those voices in my head tell me I can't do things. And I've now in this role, I've had to completely try to silence those voices.
Yeah.
Because if I listen to those voices, I'm not going to find any clients.
Right.
And so with especially my kids, it's like, I want them to understand that they can do almost anything. My uncle was the first American in space and the fifth man on moon, and he came from New Hampshire. And
wow.
So why cannot any of us do something that significant?
Yeah.
And so, but it's so that motivates me, and it's all about helping owners. It's about helping my kids and myself see what's possible, and removing, that all that negative self-talk and thinking positively, and that's a big piece of why I got into this, because people are just, they're not achieving the potential.
Yeah.
And I wasted 20 years in corporate banking. I mean, I learned a lot, and it was fun for a while, but if I hadn't spent 26 years there, I would have been so much further ahead, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why I kind of got into it.
So when someone realizes that they're struggling, so maybe that's my next first question. What does it look like when a business owner comes to you? How do they know that, oh my gosh, I've got to get outside of this. I need someone else to really come in. I'm too close to it. I need to get that, 30,000 foot view. How do they know that?
Yeah, that's the challenge. The ego gets in the way of a lot of them, and they may know it. They may know it internally, but they certainly don't like to admit it to people. But they will, and I find I work best with businesses that aren't, it's not the businesses that are struggling. It's the ones that have been successful. But because the owner is so involved in the business that it maxes out, and it might not be, it's not sole proprietor. It could be a 5-10 person business, but the owner is so actively involved, and he's in the back counting inventory, or she's cutting flowers, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The business levels out, but they want to get to here, and they don't know how to go from here to here. And that's when they hit that stage, that's where it's like, I don't know how to get there. I've tried everything, and maybe I need to get some help. And that's when it starts hitting. It's when they're successful, but they haven't achieved everything they want.
Yeah.
And bells will go off, and they'll start looking around. So, but there's no, they're not, I was about to say they're not bountiful. It's not that. It's just that most people don't like to admit that they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. That's interesting. We like to call that profitable but not progressing. So you could be
profitable but not progressing. That's exactly right.
Yeah, you could be a $3 million business, but maybe you've been $3 million for the past 5 years, and you'd really like to get to 4 or 5.
Absolutely. And it's not necessarily just in terms of revenue. One of my best clients we worked together for about 5 years, and then he got unfortunately impacted by COVID. But
wow.
he was running. His team was hijacking his time all the time, knocking on his door, asking, how should I do this? And what do we do here? And let's get this and this. And so my client had no time to focus on what needed to be done to take it to the next level. And they were $5 million business. So we spent most of that 5 years building processes in the business, educating the team, teaching him not to let people, knock on the door at all hours and say, I need your help. It's
Yeah.
like, well, tell me how you would answer it and come back to me and tell me that, instead of, always feeding off of him. And the results were dramatic because he was able to take weeks off and go play golf, but on his own, he would never have, and it's not rocket science, but on his own, because he's in the forest, he can't see anything but trees in front of him. And until you start separating it and showing him other ways of doing things, he's going to keep doing. So
Right.
It's not just businesses that aren't making enough money. It's that they have, their time is being hijacked a lot of times.
That's interesting. Yeah, Google's both a blessing and a curse. You can find so much there, but there are still some things that you can't find there.
Right.
There's a comedian that I like, and one of her jokes is she's telling the story, but she ends up with, "What did you try?" Like, did you try? Did you go look to find the answer before you came and knocked on my door and asked me for it?
But they set it up by that. If the owner had said, in the case of what I was just talking about, had said that same thing, his employees would have gotten a habit of thinking about it first before coming to him. But he didn't ask. And said, "Well, I'll just go to see Rob."
Well, it's interesting too because, and I'm sometimes guilty of this, of you think that it's faster if you just give the answer.
Yes.
But in the long run, that's not true, right? Because then you're just teaching your team members, well, anytime you come to me for a question, I'm going to answer it instead of forcing them to go back and
And then I'm on that hamster wheel because nobody knows what they're doing. They always got to go to Whitney, and all of a sudden Whitney is just getting right. And so that's a big problem. That nobody can do it better than I can, or I don't want to take I can do it faster than telling you how to do it. But the second time around, and the third time, and the fourth time, you're still coming to me. Whereas if I'd taken the time on the first one, showed you, then I wouldn't have had the second, third, fourth ones.
Yeah.
Those are the things that get in the way of owners.
Yeah.
And they just need some. I like to think that I'm a trusted advisor. I mean, I've got clients that have been working with me for 6 years, and it's 5 years every other week. I get to know these people really well, and they trust me. They involve me in decisions about whether they should sell a business and who they should hire and all those types of things. So I'm a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
And that feels good.
Nice.
I like that.
So there's the finance side, there's maybe resourcing and people sitting in the right seats on the team. What are some other obstacles that you see that business owners face?
So our definition of a successful business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without the owner. And the owner could take 6 weeks off and go to Tahiti without a phone, and that business is going to be running as smoothly as it was when he comes back as it was when he left. And that means that now he's got something, he or she now has something that they can sell and someone will buy. It's not dependent upon the owner. But to get there, you have to have the right team on board, and you have to have processes in place. This is the way we're going to do this. We're going to do it, step 1, step 2, step 3, and everybody does it that way. And if it needs tweaking, we tweak it. But this is how we do it. This is how we handle our customer service. This is how our salespeople sell. So processes is critical. Everybody's kind of on board. If it's rainy, we don't do it one way, and if it's sunny, a different way. There's one way to do things. So that's a big piece of it. That, and as well as the whole having the right people on board. I find that so many people they accept average employees, and then they want extraordinary results, but they have average employees. Oh, I can't find employees. Well, because you don't know how to look, and they're not out there. Well, of course they're out there, but they're working for somebody else, and you have to figure out a way to attract them to you rather than letting them, rather than selling for average.
Yeah.
So all of that sort of, it's just, owners get in that comfort zone. We all do. We all get in our comfort zone, and we don't like to leave the comfort zone. But that comfort zone is restricting our growth, and they need someone to help them stretch the bounds of that comfort zone. And so that's my role.
Yeah.
Is to kind of, well, have you thought about this? And what if we did it that way? And why are you doing that? Those kind of things. And it starts getting them thinking differently.
Do you see a difference in process for product-based businesses versus service businesses. And the reason I ask that is because it almost, if I'm making this cell phone, I can visualize that process that you're talking about of, well, you have to put the chips and the screen and
Right.
the front and the back and how whatever else goes into an iPhone. But services, I always feel like there's a little bit of, well, I want this package, but leave off the pickles.
Yeah, sure.
So how do you approach that when maybe there is a little bit of
So
leeway or
Dakota
difference?
is in sales, right?
So, I'm sorry, say that one more
Dakota
time.
in sales?
Yes, he is.
So does Dakota have that, this phone, that I get, someone calls and wants to meet with us,
Yeah.
and then this happens?
Yes.
And then an email goes out, and I attach to that testimonial list, and then we do this, and we do that, and we do that's what I'm talking about. And,
Okay.
and it's not that Dakota has his way of doing it, and someone else has a different way, and Dakota sometimes does it that way. I'm talking about everybody, as an example, a sales process where everybody follows it. And then you can start tracking metrics. Look, we had 10 appointments set up and we only had 6 quotes given out. How come we dropped from 10 to 6? Well, let's figure that out. And then, okay, so we had 6 quotes, but only 1 was awarded. Well, how come we didn't get more than that? So you can start tracking and you can start tweaking things and you can start improving as you start moving along that process. Or in billing, when do bills get sent out and how do they get, and who, if they're late, what's the process for collecting? Is there a phone call 5 days after the bill is due? Is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? When is it? Or is it just left to, they'll pay us when they feel like paying us? It's that sort of stuff.
Yeah, never do that.
Right. So it doesn't have to be, first you take you get the plastic box and then you put this inside and then you put that inside. It's that kind of methodology, but it's at all aspects of your business.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Okay. So it's easy to see when you're dealing with product, but the same things can apply to aspects of a service business as well.
Yeah. What was something that you saw coming out of the word that we need to come up with a new name for, right? Like we've called it pivot and pandemic and COVID, and we've just heard these words over and over. But the fact of the matter is it's really changed. It's changed how we work. It's changed business. It's changed how we've networked. What is maybe the key takeaway or key difference change that you've seen in what you do working with business owners?
Well, the key early on, the key was the willingness of the owners to recognize that things had changed and to, again, get out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And we always had people come into our restaurant, but now maybe we got to think about having curbside, or maybe we got to start thinking about having delivery services, or maybe we've got to cut back on our staff, or I don't know. But those pivots, it was an overused word for a while there, but the businesses that succeeded pivoted, and it was difficult for many of them, but they survived. I had one that had to go through a massive pivot, and the company was cut down in size, but he survived and starting to come back. Those that were a restaurant, you have to come in, and those are the ones that took it on the chin.
Yeah.
In many cases, so that recognition that hey, wait, the world's changing here. We got to get on board. As opposed to those that sit back and, things will get better. We got to just let this ride itself out. Those are the ones that got hurt.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So we were big advocates of the pivot. We were ones that overused it probably, but it was the right word for the time, I think.
I kind of thought of this phrase in my head during all this, but it holds true, pandemic or no pandemic, in the sense of it's really kind of like the art of being a chameleon, where you have to change and adapt based on the environment that you're placed in.
Right.
You have to change and adapt based on the prospect that you're talking to, right?
Yeah,
There's
right.
like dominant personalities, and there's ones that just like to be conversational. And if you allow them, they're going to take 25 minutes to tell you about the business, and then you've got 5 minutes to
Yep, that's right.
connect with them and offer
yeah.
your services or dive deeper or anything like that. So you really do have to change and adapt to who you're talking to and whatever situation you're placed into.
Absolutely. Or you can say the same and you're not going to be
And
as successful. No, that's right.
Yeah.
You're right. You have to be that chameleon. I like that analogy.
Yeah.
You know, that's you gotta as things change, you have to adapt.
Yeah. So why don't you think people engage a coach more often?
I think it is ego. I think it's I don't need a coach. I also think it might be so imagine you're the owner of a roofing company that's been in business 15 years, or it could be a CPA firm, or all business owners, and sometimes people think, well, the doctors and the CPAs and the architects, they're pretty professional. They must have had training. Nobody ever has training in how to run a business.
Right.
It's all around the technical aspect of doing the work.
Not even if you have a degree in
Not
it.
even
There's
if
just
some
things you can't learn in the classroom.
I have an MBA in finance, and what I learned in college was, nice for Madison Avenue or up, large corporate, but not for the small guys.
Right.
So I think what happens is a lot of them think that they know everything there is to know about the business, and what can a coach teach them? Because they've been putting on roofs for 15 years. What can I teach them? Mm-hmm, and so I like to think of a glass of water or a glass, and they know everything inside that glass. What shingles to use and what sort of liner to put underneath the shingles and when the wood has to be replaced and da-da-da. I can't tell them anything inside that glass. But what they don't see is what's outside the glass. And that's their strategic, that's their leadership skills, that's the knowing the financials, that's creating the customer experience, that's knowing where the business is going. You'd be surprised how many business owners don't have a clear vision of where they want the business to go. Well, how can you run a business if you're not aiming in a direction? Otherwise, you're wandering. But so that they don't see that. And so they think that a coach is, I'm going to come in and you can't tell me anything about what's inside the glass. No, you're right. But it's the stuff outside the glass that you don't see, and that's what's keeping you here.
Yeah.
If you get focused on those outside the glass things, you can it can be a rapid increase. So I think that's part of the reason as well, because they don't really understand, for lack of a better way of explaining it, the inside-outside glass thing.
You're not coming in to tell them how to be a better roofer. You're telling them how to better run their business.
Absolutely. I know finances, but I can't tell a CPA all the recent regulation. I don't. But I can tell them how to hire the best CPAs. I can tell them how to think about better marketing. I can think of, those things. And that's what makes the difference. So I think those things, the ego and that uncertainty as to how I'm going to help, perhaps are two big reasons why we say that, business owners should have an attorney, an action coach, and accountant, the 3 A's, and of course a marketing. So
nice.
3 A's and
marketing. An M. We'll work it in. Just remove the M.
Am.
You know what it is.
Big am.
That's too fun. That's true.
So anyway, so I think that's the biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
And that's what makes my job is the challenge that it is. It's finding the clients, because I can't coach anybody if you don't have clients.
Yeah, true.
So anyway.
Something else that you noted that you're passionate about is the importance of raising a child's self-esteem.
Yep.
Which I find very interesting, especially if they have a future hope or dream of owning their own business, right? Because I think like sales. So I will do sales. Sales is not my favorite thing. You get told no a lot.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have that self-esteem, you can take that on the knees and read it wrong, right? Because you may get 10 no's before you get that one yes. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I grown up think that I suffered from not low, but moderate self-esteem, and it was that voice in the back of the head was really pretty strong. As it came around to social interaction with people, as it came around to, well, you know what, you're maybe not the smartest kid in the block, all of those things, and so that really took away from what I was willing to get involved with and to push the envelope, because I can't do that. Whoa, geez, I've never done that before. Why,
Yeah.
Well, why would they pick me? I've never run a business. Why? And so it's, and I see so many examples of kids that are just, they're just not reaching for the stars, so to speak, and it just seems like a lot of them, their parents are browbeating them, and they're just not giving the kids building up the self-esteem. And so my wife and I with our kids, are just really conscious about, that you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. In most cases, I mean, and if it's not your calling, it doesn't mean that you're not a rock star. You're fabulous. So so I'm just very conscious of that, and that's important to me to develop the kids, because I don't want them to spend the first 30, 40 years of their lives kind of being held back for no reason.
Yeah.
Because I've gone through it.
Yeah.
So.
What is a way you think we can build our self-esteem? Like Jeff's number one tip on self-esteem building.
Well, I teach my owners my clients to things called affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with
Mm-hmm.
those?
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge proponent of affirmations. I said them in the morning and the evening for the first 6 or 7 years of working the business, when that voice was really loud.
Yeah.
Visualization, same thing. It's those things that help offset the tone of that negative self-talk. That in the absence of it, that voice becomes so loud, and it controls us. And so I in talking to owners, it's like, so, it's all in, the interesting thing is it's all interrelated. You got to have a vision of where you want to go in order for there to be effectiveness to my affirmations, because I want to affirm my skills and what I need to be at my destination point, not where I am today, right? So I want to be I'm a successful owner of a $25 million, whatever my destination is. So those, I think, are the things that help people overcome self-esteem issues. I'm an outstanding student. If you're questioning your student, I'm an outstanding student. I love to be around people. Whatever those I am statements are that counteract the areas where you figure your self-esteem is low will help offset that little negative voice in the back of your head. And that voice is always going to be there, but you just need to tone it down.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big piece of it. And it's just kind of building up that constant reinforcement. I can do this, I'm a good student. I'm a great student. And so anyway.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of simple ideas.
Well, it's kind of sounds crazy to say out loud, but it's true. If the negative voice is talking to you, you got to talk back to it.
Absolutely.
And put it in its place. I mean, I think we all have that negative voice, and I would say, things that have happened in our past, our childhood, things like that. How many successes have we versus failures? Definitely control the volume of that voice.
Yep.
But then you have to control it right back of what you feed it.
So years ago, we Action Coach ran 2 ads. One was an ad for $25,000 for an administrative assistant role and laid out all the responsibilities. A month later, we ran an ad for the same role, same job, for $250,000. Which one do you think got more people replying to it?
The one with the more money.
No.
No? The one with everything listed out?
No. They both were identical job postings. One was for $25,000.
Okay.
One was for $250,000.
Oh.
The one that got the most responses was the $25,000, because people said, "Whoa, $250,000.
I'm not worth that.
I'm not worth that," even though the job, the description was identical.
Okay,
So I mean, there's that negative self-talk talking, and if you qualified for the 25, you would have qualified for the 250.
Interesting.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just a vivid example of the power of that self-talk.
Yeah. Wow.
So anyway.
Wow. As we close, Jeff, I want you to just tell our listeners kind of maybe some of your favorite businesses, types of businesses that you like working with, and then how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I love working with owners. I achieve the best success when I'm with owners that are open to new ideas and have been slapped around a little bit, and they know it's not as easy as putting a shingle out and people are going to come and there's going to be a line outside my door. And so that makes them more open to new ideas. Not that they have to agree with everything I say, but at least they're open to it and we can have a good conversation. And it doesn't matter if it's I've had such a variety of businesses. I've had someone that sweeps commercial parking decks, to someone who builds medical carts, to a CPA, to because the issues are all the same. That all businesses have the same issues. How they attack them may be a little different, and the strategies we use are different. But they're the same. We got people issues. We got financial issues. We've got marketing issues, and so I've had some great success. A business owner that I used to work with for a couple years called me up about 3 months ago and invited me to lunch. And I said, he said, I called you and invited you to lunch because I want to thank you. 6 years ago, we worked together, and he was at $500,000, and in 12 months, I got him up to $1.1 million. And profits grew accordingly. And he said now he's in the top 100 remodelers in the country.
Wow.
He's been at $500,000 roughly for 10, 15 years. It's that plateau. And he knew he was capable of so much more. And as soon as he started talking, we started going through and meeting every week. And we set goals, and I had him accountable and all that, and he grew to $1.1 million, and then he just took it from there and it went up. So that's so exciting for me to see when owners kind of embrace the ideas that you're talking about and they throw in their take on it, and all of a sudden the business takes off. That was in remodeling, but I've had others where we've doubled. I had another remodeling client that we tripled revenue in a year and a half. So, anything is possible.
Yeah.
As long as the owner is open to the ideas, we can achieve great things.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like so much of what you're saying does relate to marketing and some of the same kind of points that we share, in the sense of don't wait till this is an emergency.
Right.
Because it does take time.
Right.
It takes time to implement new systems and dig into the root of the problem so that you can fix it. But it takes time. It takes 6 months to a year to really put everything in place and then reap the benefits from it.
Yeah, we've got a guarantee that says, look, after 17 weeks, if I'm meeting with you weekly, I will have started paying for myself. So, initially your expenses are going to go up because you're paying for me. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the profit's going to go down slightly, but by no later than 17 months, you'll be broken even and now ahead. And so it's that kind of, in our case, maybe in yours, it's maybe 6 months. In mine, it's not quite that long, but it does take a while. It's not next week, all of a sudden you're going to notice changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
how do people get in touch with you? If they're listening and they're like, yep, I need Jeff.
I need him. My phone number is 404-444-1836. My email is jefflovejoy@actioncoach. And my website is jefflovejoy.actioncoach.com.
Perfect. Jeff Lovejoy, Action Coach. Thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Oh, it's a pleasure. What a great way to start the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Same. Rest of the day is golden.
It's golden.
Love it. And thank you for tuning in. Tune back right here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. at 8 a.m. for another show. We'll see you then. I'll learn how to talk in between. Got so excited.
Yes.